Welcome back to Season 12 of Limited Supply, the only commerce podcast with unfiltered and refreshingly hot takes. I'm your host, Nick Sharma, and when I'm not recording, I'm behind the scenes scaling your favorite celebrity and consumer brands. Let's start talking all things direct to consumer. Today's sponsor is OmniSend, email marketing that actually makes sense. OmniSend gives you powerful features without the clunky, complicated, and overpriced experience. Email, SMS, flows, reporting, everything you need. Learn more about how OmniSend stacks up against its competitors at nick.co/OmniSend. All right, welcome back to another episode of Limited Supply. This week is actually another fun episode. I recorded an interview with my friend Michael, who's the founder, CEO of FabFitFun. And if you don't know FabFitFun, you probably know somebody who's been a subscriber. They have an insane amount of subscribers. They're one of the biggest subscription box companies that exist. They're one of the first to start. They have largely pioneered the model, but also innovated on it quite a bit, whether it was through M&A, whether it was through them building out their entire pick and pack and 3PL operation. They've got over 650,000 square feet of fulfillment center. It's just very interesting. They're about a 300 plus employee company. And so they do a lot of really cool stuff internally, whether it's buying companies, whether it's scaling out different operations they find to be helpful to companies within their umbrella, whether it's launching new companies like the Unhide blanket. And anyways, this interview was funny because we did it at SubSummit in front of a live audience. So you might hear a little bit of background, but this interview was just largely driven by my own curiosity. So you'll get a little peek inside my brain and kind of what I was interested in, but I hope you enjoy the interview. There was some really good nuggets in here. And if you have any questions you want to ask Michael, you can reach out to Michael directly. If you want to ask him, but you don't know where to find him, just DM me on Twitter and I'm happy to ping him. So I hope you enjoy this episode and I'll see you next week. All right, Michael, well, welcome to Limited Supply. It's an honor to have you here. We've known each other for a couple of years now. And now I get to finally hear your story.
Honored to be here. Big fan of your show and all your work, and happy to be here at the SubSummit too. And we have an audience. Awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. Today we're live at SubSummit 2025 at the Sheraton in Dallas. It's one of the conferences I love coming to every year, actually. And so I'm excited to be here. So to start us off, Michael, why don't you give us a quick background? What is FabFitFun? Why did it start? Where are you based? Just give us the elevator pitch.
Sure. We've been at this for a bit, but the core of FabFitFun, what we're best known for, is our subscription box service, where we curate products in beauty, fashion, fitness, wellness, home decor, all of women's lifestyle. You get full-size products 4 times a year, and our boxes range from about $55 a quarter, and you're getting north of $300 worth of retail value in each box. We're based in Los Angeles, and started the brand in 2010. Wow. Launched the boxes in 2013, and we've evolved the business in all sorts of other directions. From taking it kind of discovery curation platform to launching some of our own brands and building some B2B services and all sorts of things in between. So that's kind of the highlights.
The first 3 years you guys were in business and you weren't doing boxes, what were you guys selling or offering?
So, the brand started in 2010. The company actually started in 2007. And the initial company that I started with a friend of mine in college was actually building websites for politicians. Wow. So we've come a long way from that. We were building websites and doing media buys.
At that time, were there all those CMSs that are made for politician sites like there are now?
No.
Were there all the same regulations and rules though?
This was the Wild West.
Wow.
So if you think of the 2008 cycle, and our first client was Rudy Giuliani. In 2004, he's come a long way since then. So he was America's mayor in 2007. In 2004, you had Howard Dean, who was innovative with basically doing the first things that anyone was doing online, in the internet. And so this 2008 cycle, all these candidates were just kind of scrambling for young kids who knew anything about the internet. We were literally explaining like, what is Twitter? What is a blog? What does it mean that someone could write comments on a blog? So we were explaining some of the basics, and we knew how to build websites, and we started picking up clients. Me and my original partner in this had already accepted real jobs, and then we saw, this is a different path, and we just kept going down that path. And we built an agency. So we built an agency business doing media buys, doing web development, design services. Initially, it was focused in politics because just that's where they were hiring little young kids. And then eventually we made our way. I wanted to be back in LA, so we started working with celebrities and Hollywood folks. And out of that, we birthed FabFitFun. So when we started working more in the celebrity space, my brother joined the business, and we became co-CEOs and co-founders, and we've been that way for well over a decade now. We would get invited to, cool parties in LA, doing web stuff for these different celebrities, and they'd have these gifting suites, and in those gifting suites, you'd get to try the coolest, new, trendiest stuff. And we thought that was just the coolest thing, to go to the gifting suite and get gifted stuff, and how could you make that into a consumer experience? And that was kind of some of the genesis for what we eventually came out with FabFitFun.
That's amazing. It's funny. There's a couple of parallels. I also started my career doing social media marketing for celebrities. And at some point I worked on a presidential campaign, and we had the same thing where we had, it's like everybody's banging their head against the wall, and then some 19-year-old kid who knows about meme pages comes in and just takes over all the campaign budget to blast something out.
Yeah. I actually tell people that I don't know if campaigns and politics is it's a tough career, but early in your career, it's a great place to be because,
Agreed. You get that like agency environment where it's just boiler room.
I mean, you think of it as like it's a startup, right? A campaign is going from 0 to 60 overnight. All of a sudden, they have to have staff in every position, and they're trying to do high caliber stuff, and often it attracts missionaries, so you're getting kind of punching above your weight in terms of like the talent level. So early in your career, like I had no business advising a presidential campaign as a 21-year-old or 22-year-old, but had that opportunity, and then we worked with various Senate campaigns and gubernatorial campaigns, and so by the time I was starting to navigate my way through Hollywood, it was an impressive body of work. The things, the projects we had worked on, the level we had worked at, the amount of spend we had facilitated, and so we entered
and that was pre-rules, no rules, right?
I mean, it was. I wouldn't say there were no rules. I mean, there's certainly campaigns have FEC rules and stuff too, right? Like so there's. But
Facebook had no rules.
Yeah, I mean, I ran some of the first ads ever on Facebook, and I personally ran them, right? So I cut my teeth on, now I can't even go into that ads manager. I get lost. I've tried. I've let me brush off, dust off my shoulders and get in there. But it's a much more complex thing. But early days, a one person who was playing with Photoshop and quickly iterating, you could hit some bangers on these little thumbnail ads that were in the sidebars. Rails, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I did a lot of that for a few years.
Yeah.
And Facebook was I was a Harvard undergrad, so I saw Facebook go from the very, very, very beginning. It launched, I think I'm user number 1104 on Facebook.
Wow.
And the first version of Facebook, everyone could go to anyone's profile, and there was what's called a wall. And you could erase whatever was on that wall, and you could put whatever you wanted on that wall. You could kind of graffiti their wall. So, I mean, Facebook was a very, different animal back then.
Yeah. No one writes happy birthday on people's walls anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, one thing I think they might have, I don't know, maybe it'll come back someday. There was these virtual GIFs, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah. I'm surprised those didn't come back with NFTs.
I thought that was a magical business for them.
Yeah.
Where people were just paying $2 to send a picture of a toilet paper roll, and put it on someone else's wall.
Yeah. So you started going to these gifting suites. You saw all these gifts. You probably saw a lot of them were just sample sizes. Then you thought, okay, there's maybe a business opportunity here to turn this into a subscription box? Or how did that go from there's a concept here? Where did you see the opportunity of subscription? Because subscription wasn't a thing back then.
The site we built initially, FabFitFun, was an editorial website, and it was modeled off of, we had built websites for other celebrities. We'd become close to the MySpace team because somewhere in between all this, I built a product called Totspot, which was a social network for parents to keep track of their kids' milestones and share private photos and videos. This is kind of pre-Instagram days. That got us close to the MySpace team who thought it was an interesting asset.
If that ever got in the Indian community, it would just be, well, my kid got this on the APs and my kid did this on the SATs.
The Persians would probably do the same thing on there. So we were building these kind of, for people who wanted to go beyond MySpace, which was the biggest social network at the time. They wanted to build editorial-driven websites, and we were building these for celebrities. And we said, hey, this is a good model. It's actually, interesting. So why don't we try to do one more as a joint venture? So we built FabFitFun as a joint venture with Juliana Rancic in 2010, and we built an audience. She was the anchor of E! News and had a decent-sized Twitter following, and so we built that audience, and we had clients who were doing e-commerce subscriptions. Beachmint, which was an early subscription commerce pioneer in Los Angeles, was a client of ours. We had seen, Birchbox coming up, and so we saw that model, and we thought, oh, there's something interesting there, connected to this idea. And our spin on it essentially was that, people aren't looking just to get samples in the mail, which was kind of the one of Birchbox's and Ipsy's early kind of entries into those market. This could be a fundamentally new shopping experience. People like receiving real products, real value, and it's not just beauty. They want to actually, it's hard to stay on trend. I mean, that's I was going to say one core insight, one of many, but of like our customer and the mindset is like, it's a lot of pressure to be cool, to be on trend, to have nice things, to make your space beautiful, and if you can get someone to help surface what's cool and make it convenient and give a great value, that's something people really care about.
What's so interesting is the concept of receiving a curated box back then was probably so weird because people are so used to going into a retail store and picking up what they want. But today, the content world is exactly how you were basically doing discovery back then, which is everybody is just being fed stuff that they think they're going to like or is cool or trendy. And it's up to them to decide what they keep continuing on with.
100%. I mean, I often tell our team, yes, we're a curator and we are, we have to be extremely good at that discovery piece, but we also have to be extremely good at delivering real value. And so everything you get at FabFitFun is at the best price you could get it anywhere on the internet at all times. And we have that not only as a guarantee, but it's the culture, because now people do discover by just following an influencer or a creator and are just scrolling their Instagram, and that's discovery. And you could always purchase something one click away. So we've gotten really good at delivering, kind of our marketplace essentially is helping brands find new customers. So brands work with us because we can put them at scale in front of, arguably the most important audience in the world. It's, we have the women with the keys to the household, kind of a lot of millennial moms and people who
you have what I call is the W, which is wealthy women with kids, wine drinkers, and Whole Foods shoppers, and they prefer whole wheat over white bread. Is that you? Raise your hand. That's me for sure.
That's definitely a lot of them. And we've at this point, I think I did some math on this. I think in a pretty broad age demo of, call it, let's say like 25 to 55, I think 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 women in America have been a FabFitFun subscriber at this point.
Wow.
So, we've touched a lot of women, so it's not so narrow, but I think it's a good description. And for brands, it's interesting because we whenever people are talking about Facebook ads, are they working? What are you doing? How do we're kind of on both ends of it, because on the one hand, yes, CPMs have gotten harder. The iOS 14 changes in 2021, I think hurt everyone. And
Sure.
there's been that whole journey that we've been on. But at the same time, we've become that much more valuable to the brands that we work with.
Yeah, and also your brand is so strong. Like out of the advertisers advertising on Facebook who are complaining about CPMs, a lot of those don't have strong brands. They're really just arbitrage Excel businesses that are trying to run ads cheaper than what they're selling the product for minus COGS. But FabFitFun is a brand and a platform, really. How did you guys decide to go from subscription boxes to the next level?
Very iteratively. I keep thinking of, and we're still doing this, like it's like Russian dolls.
Yeah.
You open one and what's next and what's next and what's next. And, we kind of take the mindset that if we're not growing and evolving, we're dying. And so we're always thinking about, I always have some level of existential angst about.
You wouldn't be a founder if you didn't.
And so I'm always thinking, what do we need to do to innovate so that, I can still get invited back to SubSummit next year. When we launched our boxes, it was extremely differentiated and innovative, and that was a hit. And some things became kind of natural extensions off of what customers were telling us. And then some things we looked at, like, what are we really good at and what else can we do that maybe customers aren't even thinking about? And that's led us in a lot of interesting directions. So, we started at some point with just like, hey, maybe people want to add stuff to their box, and giving people, a handful of options, 4 or 5 options to, it does not include it in your box, but these are add-ons.
Right.
And now, our add-on sale is a huge business. It's thousands of SKUs available every season. And it's evolved into this broader entire kind of shopping ecosystem, which we're almost we're on a journey to reposition FabFitFun essentially as a full-fledged retailer. We increasingly describe it as a shopping club. And you can think of the subscription box as the end cap of the store. So it's not that the box isn't going anywhere. It's just that's the highest visibility, highest velocity SKUs in our store, but there is a store. Right. And there's thousands of items from thousands of brands, and they're constantly rotating. Our North Star on this kind of core retail business is essentially being the inverse of TJ Maxx. So if you think of TJ Maxx as a place where it's this treasure hunt environment and you're getting discounts, but for the most part, you're getting discounts on products at the end of the product life cycle. So people associate TJ Maxx with liquidation, end of season. That's kind of where products go after they've been elsewhere. FabFitFun is essentially discount at the front of the product life cycle. So we work with brands on launches.
But it doesn't even feel like a discount to the consumer, which is actually the great part. Like, they don't feel like they're buying something at a discount and then expect a discount.
Exactly. So we've done a lot of work with brands to make sure the brands feel that they're in an elevated environment. Yeah. This is not the type of thing. First of all, it's not. We don't rely on Google product listings to drive. We're not cannibalizing brand traffic. It doesn't feel like if a brand works with us, they're not. This is all incremental for them.
Right.
This is for brands. We're the biggest no-brainer ever. I always think that. I think and every brand that we've thought this is a hard brand, they don't get it yet or whatever. Now it's just a different posture. Brands love working with us. They see the value. When they're in one of our boxes, their sales fly on retail. Was there
a tipping point between you had to really sell brands on being a part of this to now brands are chasing you?
I think it was. There probably was a tipping point. I'm trying to identify when exactly that happened, but somehow maybe that 2020 era, especially. We had a big surge also in that kind of small COVID at home pocket. I think people were just more open to trying new things. And then on the heels of that, I think people were struggling with Facebook after that and things like that. So I think people just saw we've been at this now for 12 years, and at some point we had 6, 7, 8 years of evidence that this is really good for a brand to work with us.
Yeah.
And we just walk them through that, and we've also developed ways that you can kind of ladder into the biggest programs that we do, and so now it's more picking the right stuff and making sure it's a good fit for our audience. And there's still brands we chase. You know,
Right.
I don't want to, you know, we're humble. There's brands that like, oh, we got to get that one now. And we still have that target list and that hunger.
That's awesome. You mentioned Facebook was a big channel back in the day, specifically FBX, those right-hand rail programmatic ads. What were some of the largest growth channels over the evolution of the business?
Yeah, I mean, the Meta ecosystem has always been kind of top tier for us. But we've done and tried and dabbled and been in every single pocket. And I would say, you know, we've done TV, we've done podcasts, we've done whatever. I'd say the one that stands out to me as kind of like one that we became really well known for was influencers. And you know, I use the word influencers and not creators because at the time that we really nailed it, I think that was kind of the lingo. There was actually a New Yorker article where it was called "How to Be an Influencer," and the last line in the article was, "And you're nothing until you've worked with FabFitFun."
That's amazing.
Because we really figured out this whole ecosystem of reality stars, essentially, like all the Real Housewives.
Well, yeah, you started with E, which is such a huge advantage because no one usually starts with reality stars.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this last night. A lot of times when brands work with a reality star, there's one employee inside who's like, I really love the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And they try to find that person. But you guys started with that.
Yeah, it was kind of native to us.
Yeah.
And the Bachelor, Bachelorettes and sort of those ecosystems. And there was a period of time where, you know, and this is no longer true. So, you know, we've been reinventing our creator strategy, but there was a period of time where organic reach on Meta was still a real thing. And these folks had real organic reach and people were tuning in every week to watch their shows. And we had created sort of just a perfect, you know, FabFitFun's an amazing thing for a creator and influencer too, because if you think of yourself as a content maker, you kind of don't want to be hawking the same thing all the time.
Totally.
Right? Like you can only tell people about, you know, an 8-sleep mattress so many times, right? Which is an amazing mattress that Nick was talking to me about last night. You know, but your audience has heard it at some point, right?
Totally.
And so what's awesome about FabFitFun is every season we're the coolest new products, right? And so there's a real synergy between what creators are trying to do and influencers are trying to do, which is talk about new things every season, and FabFitFun, which is literally just bringing to the table new things every season. And we had really dialed that in with that influencer ecosystem, and we've been building it up in this kind of new creator landscape. It's just different. It's a different landscape.
So when you started working with these people, they were influencers. Today, everybody's just called a creator, no matter how many followers they have. How are creators a part of your content strategy, whether or not they're the ones pushing the content or FabFitFun is pushing the content?
I mean, we use a long list of creators to create content. I mean that's, you know, I think the biggest difference between what I would say like the era that we, you know, in a lot of ways pioneered, like that 2016 to 2020 kind of era. You know, at that time, you know, we ended up sitting side by side with the Facebook product team to help them build their whitelisting tool because we had just been doing it hacky. Like we'd been going to the influencer and be like, hey, we want to get into your business manager.
Yeah,
to
that
run
was
the ads.
before they had the partnership thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we built that. We were their design partner in that with Meta. Now, you know, I think, and it makes total business sense. You always have to think of like what's going to make Meta money. I joked with Nick last night. I think like a lot of the you know, tech direct to consumer e-commerce ecosystem is on one end was like a bunch of VCs, and on the other end the profits are Metas. And it just kind of sifts through all the SaaS and the brands into whatever, and somehow Meta. So you have to be very attuned to what is going to make Meta happy. And you know, I think once at some point the organic distribution on Meta wasn't what it used to be, and so I think Meta, you know, we think of the creator ecosystem a lot more as content creation and a lot less as distribution, and then distribution is just kind of a different set of things that we think about in terms of building own channels, in terms of you know, paid media spend and things like that.
Yeah. With creators, is whitelisting a huge part of customer acquisition dollars?
It's a good chunk.
Good chunk, yeah. Yeah, we've always found whitelisting to be huge.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm shocked more people. I'm shocked actually everybody doesn't whitelist, even their own personal handle.
Well, it's just part of the creative, right?
Yeah.
Like who's delivering the message.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Right? Like it's I think consumers, people just trust people more than they trust brands, which is normal. It's no surprise. And so if the message is coming from a person rather than a brand and someone you like or admire or interested in, it's part of the creative, I think. That's how I think about it.
So when you started, probably most of your spend was very like lower funnel, more direct response style. Today, as FabFitFun's a huge company, how do you split dollars between investing in building the brand and the awareness and what the brand, thesaurus is, and the direct response buy now marketing?
I mean, we're constantly evolving on this. We do think about top of funnel in a different way than we think about just like more traditional performance direct response. But we also try to make as much of our ads as possible be essentially what I think some people dub it like performance brand marketing, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we have some key value props that we want to include in all of our creative. And we think if we just keep repeating those things, they can do their work throughout the funnel. Then I think top of funnel becomes a lot more of working with creators, working with podcasts, working with even we used to do a lot of events. Now we're bringing some of those events back. It's a little bit more of a hustle, I think, at the top of the funnel.
Yeah. I always think of this concept of performance branding, which is like building the brand equity on the back of your performance media.
Totally.
And in the same way, just constantly reiterating the same things. It gets ingrained in people's brains.
Yeah, I think that's how we largely built our brand, our audience, our community.
So another thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, especially now because there's so much competition, is the general like top of funnel you get that's more on the earned media side, whether it's creators picking up organically, events including your box, PR outlets, things like that. Do you think that world of earned media has gotten significantly more challenging since the last 5-6 years?
I think it's just different, right? I think there was a time where earned media was largely associated with like the press. And I don't think the traditional press, there was a time where we would be like geeked out to be in, I don't know, like Vogue or something like that, or
Now it's like, it gets 300 views.
Now that's just like, maybe it's a logo you can put somewhere on your site.
Until they start charging you.
Yeah. Not that we even have the logo. I don't know if we have the logo. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But I think that the traditional media outlets no longer is really what you're talking about when you're talking about earned media. What you're talking about is buzz and consumers buzzing and reposting and retweeting, et cetera. And we try to capture that through our, for as much as possible, through our products. So like, for example, right now we have we've been doing these mid-season collabs where we create one version of the box. Because our boxes are fully customizable now. You sign up for FabFitFun, you get to essentially choose off of a prefix menu what you want. And one version that you could choose now is a set of vacation products. And Vacation, the brand Vacation, which is like a really cool trending brand. So we have the essentially FabFitFun X Vacation collab box, and it's they're a really cool brand that has a lot of kind of cachet and a big following, et cetera. And by doing a collab and creating a bunch of creative, and that's all on our Instagram, you go see it. It cuts above the noise, and we see that breaking through and things like that. So we try to, as much as possible, think about like, what can we do on a curation or product level that might cut through the noise?
Yeah, I always think of the concept of like brand versus publisher, and publisher just really being that they have an audience that will come to them if they ask for it. And I feel like a good, a testament of a good brand is you can also be a publisher, kind of like how you are a publisher to Vacation in that sense.
And that's our roots.
Right.
Our roots we were just an editorial. So we started just as content. We were a daily newsletter in lifestyle. So we've always kind of had that DNA. And and we're also different than a traditional brand. We're not a product brand. We're a curational brand. We're more of a retailer than we are a brand. And so if we can't tell the story of the brands that we work with, we're kind of DOA.
Yeah.
So we've got to we've had to become good at storytelling.
So okay, so you've got the box. The box business is amazing. You guys started launching other brands. How did you decide what to launch, when to launch it, why to launch that specific product? How'd you go about that?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of experimentation on what we call house brands, and we have a handful of them, and they play a great role within our ecosystem, and it's awesome. But where we've had a lot more success is we have a merchandising team that's constantly out there in market, receiving pitches at trade shows, hearing what's the latest, what people are coming up with. We're often I'll see, like, I also do a fair amount of angel investing, and we're often part of a go-to-market strategy for a new up-and-coming consumer product brand. And so, we've developed a program we call FabFitFun with a D at the end of it, where we essentially roll out the red carpet for an early-stage consumer product brand, and give them, everything from, forward-looking PO commitments to access to different parts of our stack. We've converted our warehouse into a 3PL. We actually recently bought a packaging business. We obviously have expertise in creative and performance marketing and other areas of things that we've been doing for a dozen years now. And that FabFitFun program, really what we're looking for is something that's quite early in its journey, where we can be a meaningful edge for that company and be, we call ourselves like a queen maker in that capacity. And it's a combination of meeting the right set of operators and founders and the trends that we're seeing based on our merchandising team and the consumer insights that we receive regularly, because we're also constantly polling our customers. What do you like? What did you like? Why did you like it? Et cetera. Looking at sell-through rates, et cetera. So like the overlap of all of that has made us made some really great bets. So happy to talk a couple quick examples, but at some point we knew there was a big trend around faux fur blankets, and people were our audience wanted them. We knew they wanted them. We developed them. We sourced it, et cetera. And we actually, sometimes we work with brands where we actually source a product and there's an established brand and they want to go to market with that product with us. Mm-hmm. In this case, we thought that's what we were going to do. And that partnership fell apart at the last second. And instead, we launched an entirely new brand. It was called Unhide, which is a faux fur blanket brand.
It's a beautiful brand.
We had a joint venture partner who was a good friend of ours, who's very talented brand builder. And that brand now itself is, an 8-digit revenue brand, growing well, beloved in our ecosystem, and has a presence outside of our ecosystem. That was really popping from a consumer insight standpoint, that people wanted faux fur brands. Another example, in 2018, everyone was pitching us a pots and pans business.
Of course.
Everyone. We literally had, and these have all become great companies. So that they had the right to. There was an opportunity clearly to do, I think the thought at the time was something like, Casper did this for mattresses, Warby did this for eyeglasses, and no one's touched the pots and pans. And I think 5 different entrepreneurs had this idea at the same time. And we saw the pitch from 5 different entrepreneurs. And that was when we decided, hey, maybe we roll out the red carpet. We establish a program where we can, rather than try to build these brands entirely ourselves, let's really hug this set of founders and help them build something great. And we ended up partnering with an amazing set of founders, Amir and Shiza, who've built Our Place.
Right.
And they have the Always Pan, which is an incredible, I think it's the top selling single SKU house product on Shopify.
Wow.
And we've been on that journey with them. I sit on the board today, and they've built an amazing business. And we've done deals like that now probably, once a quarter. So we've kind of broadened out. The way we think about the business now is this kind of core retailer at the center, which is kind of this inverse TJ Maxx, with this constellation of brands that either we own and operate directly, or we have a JV in, or our broader brand partner set who we just partner with.
Right.
And then a connective tissue of B2B services that we've started productizing, like our 3PL business and Books, which is our packaging business.
Ever feel like your email marketing tools are working against you? The more you want to do, the more they start charging you. With OmniSend, customers can earn $68 on average for every dollar they spend. Why pay enterprise pricing for features you don't even use? With OmniSend, it's so good, it's boring, which is how it should be with email. No clunky dashboards, no unnecessary roadblocks, just a platform that lets you focus on strategy and revenue. Learn more or try it for free at nick.co/omnisend. That's nick.co/omnisend. So when you're looking to invest in a business, your mindset is probably, this has to fit in our box, has to fit with our audience, because otherwise what's the point if we can help the distribution? What are like is there a small checklist in your head you go through of products or types of brands or the consumer they're going after that's a perfect fit for this type of a business?
So it's interesting when you say it has to fit in the box, because the Always Pan didn't fit in our box.
Yeah.
But we love the brand and we saw the opportunity, and we worked with them to figure out how to use the box as a promotional vehicle for our place. And we ended up developing other products. We had a lunch box from our place. We had wine glasses from our place.
Yeah.
And those have been in the box. And they put the brand in front of the consumer's mind. We tell the story of the brand. The consumer then, has the opportunity to go and learn more and find the other products and become, affiliated with that brand. So I'd say there's like a fair amount of creativity that we understand how to find a brand that we think our audience will have an affinity for, and even if the product specifically doesn't fit the exact contours of what makes a great FabFitFun box product, that just means that product isn't on the end cap, right? We have this broader store, and we have our storytelling capabilities, and we have an audience that trusts us to choose the right things for them and tell the right stories. And so we're pretty flexible, and we've also positioned the brand to be somewhat intentionally broad. We don't think of ourselves as a beauty vertical. Like even though half our business is beauty, we do fashion accessories, we do home decor, we do wellness. Yes, we're probably not going to do like, I don't know what, like, we haven't found a way to. We have a small men's program, so I don't want to say we won't do it. Like Sean Frank is a good friend, and I want to figure out how to get Ridge Wallet into our ecosystem, but it's not the sweet spot of our customer.
Right.
Right. Although women, I guess, use Ridge Wallets too.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth. I don't know maybe we'll do anything. I mean, we're creative.
Yeah.
But yes, we have a largely women focused audience. Call it between 20 to 60 years old is the sweet spot, but there's big tails on that. And we are trying to focus on what they would love.
Yeah. How have you guys thought about or used, or do you use any sort of AI right now? Not just ChatGPT, but like really, you were talking about merchandising. You have merchandisers that are going out and scouring the web, trade shows. Like, do you use AI in that process? Or all the data that you have, the surveys, are you using AI to consolidate?
Yeah. If you're an intellectually curious person, you're obsessed with AI right now. It's just unbelievable, right? Like, I talk to ChatGPT 10 times, 20 times a day, something like that. I think the lowest hanging fruit is for most e-commerce is probably in the customer service area, which we've been applying, and we're on a journey there to hopefully get to the automation rates that we think we should and can get to. But yes, absolutely. I mean, we're applying AI to summarize most meetings that are happening in our company. We're encouraging our team to. We have a channel where in our Slack where anyone who's used AI, et cetera. So on the merchandising team specifically, we are it's a big focus area because I think there's so much opportunity there, especially in terms of how to deal with both the massive amount of consumer insights, both the outbound and inbound kind of conversations and dialogue with brands, and then we have a whole kind of surveying consumer insights methodology around before we make purchasing decisions to kind of validate, and we track brand Q scores, et cetera. And there's definitely ways in which AI is being applied to all of that, and kind of we're on that journey as well.
Yeah. All right, last thing I want to chat about before we come to you guys for some questions. So hopefully you guys have a couple questions ready. Is growth with M&A. So you guys have gotten so big. You mentioned you started buying a couple businesses. I remember a few years ago, Harry's also went that strategy of, all right, we've gotten Harry's and Flamingo as big as we can, and the best way for us to increase is just buy more businesses. What's the thinking behind the M&A strategy?
Yeah, I think people ask me, how do you stay with the same business for 12, 15 years? You got to keep it interesting. So we've kept evolving, and one of the ways to evolve, once you've achieved a certain amount of scale, is just think about what businesses are out there that you can add a tremendous amount of value to, and vice versa. And we've now built a fair amount of infrastructure and capabilities that we know through our kind of incubation and FabFitFun programs that apply well to existing or new brands, and meaningfully will apply well to a range of brands and assets out there. And so I find actually one of the most interesting things, you look at the biggest companies in the world, and a lot of their growth has been through really thoughtful strategic M&A, whether it's Google, buying YouTube and Android, Meta buying Instagram and WhatsApp, right? Like where would these companies be? And obviously, we're not quite at that level or scale. Maybe, hopefully one day we will be. But we think we can grow. We think we have all the permission in the world to go and take interesting assets, plug them into our ecosystem. So that, two deals, I'll just talk about the two deals that we haven't fully publicly announced, but this would be a good opportunity to talk about it. And one which we did a year ago and we've announced. So a year ago we bought Pupbox, which was a corporate divestiture from Petco. And
that didn't last long, right? They launched it and got rid of it quick, right?
So Petco actually bought Pupbox. So there was a great, incredible founding team, exited to Petco. I think Petco then tried to run with it, and it didn't quite fit the thesis that they had initially. And they were like, what do we do with this? And turns out we're really good at running boxes.
Yeah.
And so, we were able to bring it into our ecosystem, lean out some of the OpEx, and leverage the fact that, we have an incredibly capable supply chain team, logistics team, merchant team, and all the cross sells. A lot of our customers, over half of them have pets,
right?
And vice versa. We've given Pupbox customers benefits in the FabFitFun ecosystem. So that's like an example of a deal we did. And then on a totally different plane, we recently bought a company called Books, which is a eco-conscious packaging business. We're known for our boxes, and we work with thousands of brands, and we built a 3PL business already that's doing phenomenally well, and we're kind of world class in kitting. It's probably like as good as it gets. And so one other thing we wanted to offer to these customers was just we could be your packaging solution. And so we had a tremendous entrepreneur who's built a great business, and provide packaging for companies like Goop and Road Beauty, which just had an amazing exit yesterday. And so now we can offer our brands packaging.
Wow.
And so we're trying to stack these B2B services as well, to help balance kind of the overall corporate business.
Amazing. What do you think, with the for you-ification of content and discovery, with brands bringing out membership programs now, what do you think is the future of subscription?
I think it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I think, subscription is a reciprocal commitment. It's a commitment from a customer. It's giving you a, high intent signal that I'm going to continue to be a customer of yours, and so
or at least they want to be.
Yeah.
They want to continue.
You get a lot of predictability out of it.
Right.
And with better predictability, you should be able to deliver more value. And then it's on you to do that.
Right.
And at the same time, I think the business world has become smart about this idea, right? That subscriptions are good business models. There should be, if they're constructed right, this kind of optimal value exchange. And so everyone's trying to launch a subscription.
Yeah.
And so the double-edged sword of that is there's some probably subscription fatigue amongst consumers, like how many of these do I want to commit to? And then, I think as a result of that, these bundles are becoming, the ones that are standing out are becoming more and more valuable. They're bundling more and more things. You have Prime, which is like, I don't even know what I don't get with Prime at this point. And we've tried to kind of, follow what are the natural extensions to what we're offering in FabFitFun. How do we keep adding to the membership value and bundle and be differentiated in our lane, and where do we have permission to continue to expand? And I think, I think it makes sense to. There's a lot of value that can come out of a subscription, but it's a high bar. It's a higher and higher bar.
Yeah, I agree.
As time goes on.
Have you ever? This is just a random curious question. Have you ever thought, like, you guys process so many orders and a lot of repeated orders. Have you ever thought about creating your own FabFitFun credit card to reduce payment processing fees?
Yes, we've thought about it. It's like somewhere on that list of like
things to do.
Yeah, it's probably every year or two.
Yeah.
That I'm like, we should do a credit card.
Yeah.
And I know there's probably like a credit card vendor here in the Expo Hall that can help me with it. We just, I think we will end up doing that. I think it's a question of how do we do it thoughtfully in a way that delivers real value, real differentiated value.
Right.
And in my ideal, it's not like, especially when we think about new businesses, we don't want them to be, hey, we have a captive audience and we can just get them hooked onto this thing. We want it to be a wedge into an entirely new business.
Yeah. So
if PupBox is just about upselling pet subscriptions to existing FabFitFun subscribers, it's not quite that interesting. If PupBox, because it's unique, and it is unique, like we do age and stage-based programming, both in terms of the curations and training guides, et cetera, in PupBox. So it's like pretty differentiated out in the market. And we think that's a path towards being independently a really, really interesting business. And I'd want to think the same way about a credit card.
Yeah, fully agreed. All right, we're going to do 5 quick questions, and then we'll go to audience questions. So first, what's one subscription metric that's overrated?
Overrated?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Gets talked about a lot, but you're just like, why the fuck are you focusing on that?
This is gonna retention has to be the North Star, and yet, there are probably healthy versions, like in the abstract, without looking at like what is the marketing program that you're running. It's not always apples to apples. Mm-hmm. So there could be, let's say, like high churn programs that are really smart and good for you. Yeah. So that might be like, I don't know if that's so surprising to say, but I think you can't get fixated. I think every metric has to be contextualized, including churn.
Yep. What about one growth hack you're tired of hearing about? I have a guess for yours.
Do you?
Which is just the upsell between your different companies.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think you have to be the reason upsell works in our environment is because FabFitFun is a cross-sell platform. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not inorganic.
Right.
It's not a like, hey, you came to buy a mattress and now we're selling you a watch or something, right? It's I'm here to discover new things. That's what people are telling us when they sign up for FabFitFun. So it's very organic to us. I often am skeptical of things that will help reduce churn that are tactical.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I would say like things that are tactical that are, and there may be like short-term wins on there, but I think that ultimately like you reduce churn by having really happy customers.
Yeah, agreed. And to your point, like the programming and the merchandising.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, the product should reduce churn.
Right.
People aren't staying with Prime because Prime figured out how to optimize their cancel flow.
Right.
They have figured out how to optimize their cancel flow. And we should all do that. But that's not the leading reason why retention is high at Amazon.
What about a brand that you secretly admire? It could be for anything: their product, their team, their cancel flow, their ads.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, not so secretly, but Seed, the probiotic company, they're good friends of ours. We were early investors in them, and I just think they've built like a phenomenal business. Super thoughtful about the brand, in a way that their website isn't like historically been like the like it's pretty content rich, which it doesn't feel like the purely like dialed in for conversion, hit you over the head with it, because they're really passionate about telling the story about gut health, and they've been doing it for a number of years now. And I think they've done a phenomenal job.
Amazing. And last question is, what brand has your favorite packaging or unboxing experience?
FabFitFun.
Of course. Okay, we're gonna take maybe 3 questions. We got one back there. Yeah.
All right. Amazing. It's a great question.
I'm going to just repeat the question.
Go ahead, Nick.
The question was, from a new FabFitFun subscriber, is gifting a huge channel of acquisition?
It's a hugely underdeveloped channel for us, is what I would say. It's we need to do better. We need to make FabFitFun easier to gift. It's a wonderful gift. It's people describe it as it's the gift that never stops giving, and we could do more there. It's not that it doesn't happen. It happens. It happens all the time, but we haven't developed all of the kind of flows and functionality that I think would make it super smooth and easy to do.
Next question, right here.
As someone that has started off from like a small company and then grown it over time to become a much bigger company, if you could go back in time to the very beginning of your career as a CEO, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself knowing what you do now?
So question was, going back to the beginning of being a CEO, piece of advice you'd give yourself as you're growing your business?
I think
probably get an 8 sleep.
I think that's great. I think you could never, you just kind of like, when it's good, it's good to be a little bit more paranoid, and when it's bad, it's not the end of the world. I think there's like a level-headedness of, you got to celebrate the wins, and you got to be alert when you're feeling pain. But like that, no CEO I know doesn't go through the roller coaster. It's just it is a absolute roller coaster. You're going to feel like you might go out of business a number of times in that roller coaster.
If you don't, are you really CEOing?
Yeah, exactly. and then you're going to think that you're well on your way to building the next Google at some points, and maybe you are, but it's always hard work, and find a way to take joy in the work. So it's
right here.
When you talked about the decision of launching the branded credit card, you mentioned that there wasn't enough value to the customer, and they just stayed on the list but it didn't become an initiative. Can you explain how you and your leadership team evaluate opportunities, and maybe give an example of something that did rise to the list and why?
Amazing. So with you and your leadership team, basically, how do you evaluate opportunities to bring to market?
Rigorous debate. My co-founder and co-CEO is my brother, so to any idea that either of us have, we know there's going to be a strong, forceful reaction to it. There's no single metric, because I think a lot of the best bets are more strategic than they are. It's like entrepreneurship. All the obvious ideas are probably the domain of like a big company, and so you have to have a little bit of an angle to why you're going to do things. And so the credit card example is an interesting one, because I would say I'm skeptical of I'm skeptical of the pitch from, let's say, some of the branded credit card providers, which is like, this is going to be so easy and turnkey. Because if it is easy and turnkey, I worry that it's just totally commoditized and uninteresting. And so then I'm like, okay, well, this could be a fair amount of work. Anything that we do that's gonna be great is gonna be a fair amount of work. And then we just have to make sure we have the resources to see it through and make it differentiated and make it, really sing.
And then those debates with your brother.
It's not, and by the way, it's not just debates with my brother. We have the most incredible leadership team that we get together for a few hours every week to really wrestle with strategy. And then we have, offsites and strategic planning processes that we've been adherents to, and we're big fans of being in the office. I'm not. I think you could do it with on-sites and off-sites if you're a more remote team as well. But I think nothing beats spending time together with leadership in small groups to really think about all the angles.
And then have you found a format that works really well for those debates with the entire team?
I mean, I don't know if the format's more complicated than like, one, we have like a regular weekly strategic, leadership meeting every week. We're all committed to it. And then at least twice a year, we're doing a much more intensive multi-day kind of offsite.
All right, 2 more questions right
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Green.
Oh, yes. Hey, I'm Paris, a nonprofit.
Amazing.
And I would like
Awesome.
to know, I am learning so much. I would like to know if you've ever used like a roundup opportunity for a nonprofit or, gonna like purchase this and your support, any of those kinds of initiatives.
Have you ever used
So it's a good question. The short answer is yes. We've raised, I would say, don't quote me on the number, but at least $500,000 for nonprofits throughout, the tenure of our business from our community. And what we used to do was have a featured nonprofit every single season, and then put that out to the community and let them add on a donation to their box. And what we're doing now is reformulating that into somewhat more of a thematic focus, because it was hard, frankly, to get those every quarter to change it up and the amount of lift and effort, and it felt almost inauthentic because of the amount of time and attention we could do to just kind of like plug something in. So what we're doing now is we're reformulating that in a specific kind of vertical that we haven't announced yet, that we want to go deep on. And then when something's right in our backyard, the team just rallies, right? And that's just authentic. And I think you have to be authentic when you're doing things like this. So the fires in LA was literally right in our backyard. And we thought we could be helpful because we had a lot of products and people lost their homes and a lot of their stuff. And so we set up, a kind of build a box program for people who lost their homes or were affected by the fires. And we had, many, many hundreds of people come through. And so we've done things like that as well.
All right, last question right here.
Can you share a little bit behind the scenes of like the decision-making process that goes into how you make sure the products you offer your customers are the best value without making it feel like a discounted environment?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the decision-making process for how we choose products and how do we make sure that they're the best value? There's both art and science there. We have a substantial, one of our largest teams is our merchandising team, and they pair with our consumer insights team, and they're constantly, one is have a lot of options, right? And then part of what makes a good value is, I would say, like the willingness of the brand to work with us, right? Like we're not buying at wholesale. We can't deliver the value we want to deliver, buying at wholesale. And we even have some brands who are doing sponsored programs with us, right? So including some brands who are willing to provide free product or, essentially be in a sponsored placement on our site. And so it's somewhere at the intersection of like creating a lot of options by being out there So, we're talking to brands, talking to decision makers at the brands. The consumer insights we receive, looking at both like prospective surveying and retrospective sell-through and ratings and reviews that we now have, millions of reviews on products and data points, et cetera. And then the business terms, frankly, right? Like, what can be negotiated with the brand. So somewhere at the intersection of those three ideas and a substantial merchandising effort to sift through that, and they have their own set of debates and meetings, and and at the top of that is my co-founder Katie, who's our editor-in-chief. That's kind of how it works. Yeah, I mean we're not a traditional retail channel. We're this kind of discovery platform, and there's all sorts of ways that gives a tremendous amount of value to the brands. Another way we for most brands we work with, we describe it as essentially like free marketing, right? Like instead of just paying, Meta and use product, right? And we'll help you get it in the hands of new consumers.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being with us, Michael.
Thank you, Nick.
Hopefully
Yeah, it was
everybody
awesome.
can say a prayer tonight for the Knicks, and have a great rest of your SubSummit. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise on CPG, retail, and e-commerce. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with a friend? And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss the next one.